Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it's Wednesday. It's February 28th. This will be our chart lesson for the day, and we spent most of the day in a range. The highs around 2760, lows around 2738, 39, something like that. But once we turned down here late in the afternoon, around 1:30 or so, the bottom just fell out of it and off it went. So um, generally we don't like to trade much after two, so really it was all over before the trading day was over before the really big sell-off occurred. So, um, generally when you have a sell-off like we did a couple of weeks back and the lows we made, usually you're going to test that again pretty quickly, even if you're not going to go lower. So we may be headed back now to test the lows. I think we went as low as I can't remember 25. We were down 25 something in the 2500s anyway. So if that's the case, we still got a little ways to go. We had a nice rally, but we'll see if that's where we're headed back to test those lows again or not. Um, but really, most of the trading day today was a range, and we're just trending from one side of the range, and you can see we trended from the lows to the highs, highs to the lows, and we were headed from the lows back to the highs. We didn't quite get there, and the market reversed and it was off to the races. I mean, this dropped off pretty quickly. There was a nice chance to enter this. We'll talk about it. There was another chance here. This one was a little more aggressive, a little riskier. But this was a great opportunity, and you would have had a runner off that, and you could have ridden that the whole way. So, what I really hate is when you don't get a chance to get in a move like this and it just takes off without you and it never really gives you another setup and you just kind of get stuck sitting there watching it. That's when that's what you really hate to see. And I've talked about it before. Never look back and say, man, if you did the right thing and you didn't have a setup and you didn't enter and it took off, because sometimes that happens, then don't let that eat at you because that happens. That's part of trading. And sometimes you'll see a huge move that takes off and you just didn't get a way to enter it because what'll happen is the next time you try to enter, it won't do the same thing and you'll get trapped and have a loss. And so don't beat yourself up if you did. And if you had a good setup and it takes off without you, then study it and make sure you don't miss that next time. But if there's not a setup and it takes off and there's a huge move that carries on, then don't let it bother you because you did the right thing. Um, and that's just one of those times that trades took off without you. But there's two tiers to this thing. It really wasn't. I mean, let me wait till I get through here. Um, it wasn't hard to find the highs and lows. You really couldn't find the midpoint. You had an idea it was right through here because of where we're moving both sides of the line, but it ended up being right across here. I believe those two touches right there kind of gave it to you. Um, but you didn't really get a whole lot of opportunity off the highs and lows. That's the problem today. You had to follow the trends, so to speak, and you really had to get down in here in the short-term stuff. I mean, generally that's where you're going to find most of your trades, and you can see, there's a channel here, and there's some short-term stuff in here, and that's generally where you're going to find it. And there's actually a couple of more short-term. I can't get that word out. Short-term channels working up and down in here. Um, But again, the shorter term stuff is probably more realistic and probably helps you more. So um, early on, it looked like we may have a channel that worked up for the day, but we quickly found resistance up here and sold off. We made an attempt to come back, and that may be all this was. Maybe it wasn't a range day. Maybe this is just an attempt to come back and test the highs. I don't know. You really didn't get a whole lot of tests of this trend line. It didn't really help you. I found that trend line off the highs up here, and that fit on the midline really well. And so if you drag it down, you really would expect that maybe prices will bounce here, but they did, and they just kept going. So this channel may not even be valid for that matter. It just doesn't really help you, so it doesn't matter either whether it's right or wrong or whatever. Um, what you really need to be following are these shorter term ones that you can see in here. That's what's really going to help you for the day. So let's back out, talk about the trades, and we'll wrap the day up. One good thing about today is we really didn't have to wait. We didn't have that little tight range that we've had the last couple of days. I mean, you know, right out of the gate, we pretty much started having some trades. Right at the 7 o'clock hour, we had a couple of really nice trades. And immediately you should have measured that leg, and when we went higher from right here, you look for a measured leg, and you can see we pretty much got that to a tick and then turned down. So all that worked out nicely. That would have been a great target once we started going higher. But first trade I saw was right at the 7 o'clock hour. You got this channel working up, or this trend working up, and that's the first break, and then you're moving down and you get a close outside and a new low. So you figure you're probably going to reverse, and you're looking for, there's a double top here. So maybe we'll push through and make that new high, and then we may reverse, or we could continue higher. You really don't have enough price action here to get a good feel for the day yet. The one thing you can see here early on is that, you know, here's your overnight high and your overnight low, and we're trading inside of that until right at the open, and then we quickly got back. So we're still making higher highs and higher lows here all the way until right in here, and then that's when it reverses. But at that point, it still looks like a possible range day. So generally on range days, you don't get outside your overnight highs. We did today, but we still found that resistance. And when we tried to rally, we couldn't get back up there. You can see right here. We did get higher than the overnight highs, not by much, maybe 3 or 4 or 5 points, something like that. But anyway, so you're working down, you get a close outside, a move to a new low, and it reverses. Just wait for a higher low or some kind of, or your reversal pattern. You get a higher low right here, it actually goes lower, turns, it goes out the other side. I like going long right there, or you might let it break higher here and drop a limit order back, and you would have got filled again several ticks back into this bar. Or you could have just waited and entered above this one. That's your reversal pattern. Notice the low, first entry, then your second leg up, and your second entry short. It fails. And anytime you see that, and you see that another push up, and then one more push down before it reverses, especially if it's right along that trend line, that's generally a great place to add on. Or if you're not already in, you just got a second opportunity that you don't always get. Take advantage of it. The only problem here is you're a little closer to this resistance. So you got to be wary of, wary of that and aware of it. You had more room here, but the fact that it's crawling up that trend line and we made another higher low and it actually went lower first and turned and went out the other side, I like going long right there. I like adding on there, and that would have been a nice. If you caught those three and added on to these two, this one you would have already scalped out and you probably would have lost your runner. But on these two, you would have already had one in the bank, and then you get two here, and you can probably get a little bit of a runner off that one. Either one of those or both, you could make a nice little profit right out of the gate before the market even opens today. So that's what I like about those early trades like that. But of course, we reached a new high here. We do have a little trend working up, and I don't necessarily see a close outside that one. It could be that this one's a little steeper, and you do get a close out and two legs up to a new high. But if you notice, it does fit better on this side like that, where if you have it like I originally had it, the trend line looks really nice up through there, but it doesn't really fit on the other side. You can't make it fit real well. I guess it does fit right there, but you only get 2 touches. So either way, it turns down, and unless you were looking at it like I've shown it right here, you really don't get a break in a new high. But now we're working down. You get a close outside, new low, but you got a short here. Notice that high, you're moving down, first entry long, pull back, second entry long. It fails real quickly. It actually goes out the top and turns and goes lower. I like going short right there. You figure we're probably coming back um, down here somewhere to test these lows maybe, but it just kind of bounces in there, and it would have been good for scalp. This is a great example. It gets exactly 4 ticks if you played it below this bar right here, which is how you should have played it. If you played it below this one, um, by the time that closed and you had a couple of ticks down there on that stem, and I'd probably skip that trade. I would only enter if I could get in back here where it was originally with a limit order. Or actually, I would have my stop out. When it went higher and turned and went down, I would have went ahead and put a stop in there. It does reverse. Look how it pushes right through. Now you got your close outside, new low, pushes right through, pulls back, gives you a nice bullish bar creeping up that new trend line. I like going long right there. And this one takes off, another nice move. And now we're continuing to make higher highs and higher lows, so I'm thinking longs up until we find this resistance here. There's a failed second entry short here, but that's too big of a doji. You know, we barely pushed above this one, and it's kind of going sideways. I don't think I would go long there. I think you're just better off to wait. And then, of course, it comes down. You get a first entry, but you don't really get a clear close outside. So I wasn't too crazy about entering right there. I think you need to wait on a trap of some kind, and you end up actually getting a trap to the long side. Again, I wouldn't enter long right here, in my opinion, just simply because um, this is more bullish than bearish, but it's not really great. And you don't have a whole lot of room here, especially to the closes. I don't even think you got enough room to get out before that high. But when it fails to go higher, I like going short. And notice we didn't have any shorts now. We have been making higher highs and higher lows, but the fact that we're getting above and below the EMA consistently, generally you can trade that both ways. And so we're probably overdue to come to the lower trend line. And so I like that short. It pulls back up, and now it gives you, and this is a double test kind of this level, but now you get really a double test of this level, and so I like this one even better. Nice bearish bar, and you don't know that it's going to take off like that. You're looking for prices to probably come back to this trend line at some point if this is valid, which it looks pretty valid. It's just you're not getting any plays off the trend line. You can see that midline's pretty much in play there. But this thing, the bottom just falls out of it. And it does get a little correction here, and you do have room to get out. And you can see that trend line. This little channel is clearly in play. But you're going short at the low of this swing. You got enough room before here, and you got enough room before this trend line. But you've been away from the EMA for a bit. You're not, you haven't had much of a correction after a big move down. You don't have a whole lot of room before. I mean, there's not a lot of room between here and there. There's enough to scalp out, but it's not like it's a sure thing or anything. So I just don't think you want to enter there. It fits the criteria to some degree. So if you want to be aggressive, and it does turn out to be a nice move, and I didn't measure, but it looks like it's probably 2 measured legs. There's your first leg, and then there's your second leg. It's actually a little more than a measured leg. So that was a nice move. But you get the better entry right here. Look what happens. You get your first close outside that trend, and you're moving up. You get a close outside, move to a new high. There's 2 legs up. Look at that big bearish bar. It's possible you couldn't get in this one because it dropped so quickly. Notice the gap right there, and it didn't back up. So you would have definitely had to probably put a limit order in there and hope you got filled 1 tick below. And if you tried to get anything more aggressive than put it where you usually do, you would have missed that trade. And there's just nothing you can do. It just takes off without you, and that happens sometimes. We're moving down. We get a weak close outside here, but we get one and then a move to a new low, and it bounces. And there's a high or low here and a failed second entry short. And we don't have a new high yet, but at this point we're still making lower highs and lower lows. So I was a little concerned with that one. There's no reason you can't argue that with it being a failed second entry short that it's not, it's not something you wouldn't at least make green. So I'll make it green, but I think you're better off just to skip that trade. And of course now it pushes up to, now you got your close outside, it pushes up to a new high, makes a perfect double top, nice bearish bar. I like going short there. And on a bigger picture, that's a second entry short. So I like going short there. And notice this one, you probably could have used a limit order, but you don't really want to use a limit order unless you need to because of other rules or other things that you're trying to work around. Because sometimes it doesn't back up and you'll miss a good trade. You don't want to miss a trade like that. You had to miss this one almost on purpose. You're probably lucky if you got filled on that one, so you don't want to miss this one too. And I would at least look for a measured leg like this one when we started back down. But I would also look for one like this one. And if we end up getting that measured move, so yeah, I would look for probably a measured move, and we didn't end up getting that, and so we got a nice rally instead. And that's one thing that'll tell you, even if you don't get a measured move, sometimes you'll miss it by a tick or two or overshoot it by a tick or two or a point. But when you miss it by several points and it starts going the other way, generally you can count on a pretty good correction in the other direction, and we end up getting that. So you can see that here. But yeah, I would have looked for that measured move down from that point. And then of course we're moving down first entry, pull back second entry, and that fails quickly and you get a nice bearish bar. There's not a lot of room there to get out on that little double bottom, so you may let this one break lower and drop a limit order, and you can see this thing would have come all the way back up and you could have gotten filled one tick. You don't want to be so conservative that you miss a trade though. So I doubt I'd play it that conservative. I probably would have come back a tick or two, but you could have gotten filled quickly there. Like I said, all the way back within a tick of that high, and then it drops real quick down to the next level. And at this point, you could have found this midline, and you can see where most of the closes and touches were up here. So I would measure that. That's the other way I would look in case this is a range day, and then you just look for a measured move down. You can see we hit, that gives you that target pretty easily, and so that shows you got a little room there. But I like this one because it's a trap, and it actually traps again, moves up again, and gives you another attempt to. So you might have, if you weren't in, you still might have considered getting in here, but I would have. I don't, you can't enter way down here. And once this bar closed, I wouldn't enter down here. Even though it took on off, there's no way I would risk that. I would only enter here on this bar if I was trying to get a better entry over here on this original one. So that's the reason that was not marked. And of course, we go a little further than that measured distance there, and it rallies, pull back first entry, pulls back second entry. And you got a little short-term trend line working up. That's the first close outside. It does come back to the EMA. There's two legs up, so and the previous high is up here, even if we're going to stay in this side of the range. So I like entering there. Just look for it to finish the rest of the move up. It's good for a scalp, but nothing more. And it turns down. And notice what happens here. You make that new high, and then it tries to go higher again and fails and turns and goes out the other side. I like going short there. Again, that's too much stem to try to get short under that. So the play on this one was when it breaks higher and turns and goes out the other side. I like having a sell stop right there. And notice this little trend working down. You get a close outside new low and it bounces. And this is basically a double top. So that's a pullback first entry, pullback second entry. And the other reason I like this one is that if you draw this trend line, you start off that high and work it off these two and then drag it down, that's where it's bouncing. And so that's when it bounced right there on a second entry with a nice bullish bar. And again, this one went out the low side and turned and went out the upper side. And this thing takes off. Again, you don't know that it's going to take off like that, but it does. It gives you another little pullback right here, but it's too close to all that resistance up there. It's way too close to all that resistance. I wouldn't go long right there into those highs. It works, but you don't know that ahead of time. So, and then we start working down. There's a lower high here, but not a very, I mean, that's basically a neutral bar. That bar is almost neutral. And so it does drop on down. It pulls back and gives you a failed second entry long, but you do get a close outside here. So, and if this trend line's in play, you know, you need to be careful trying to get short right in there, right into that trend line. And guess what? It touches and bounces. So I like going long. Nice bullish bar. When it broke higher here, you may drop a limit order in. I definitely wouldn't wait on it to come all the way back here. Once it starts going sideways here, if you didn't get in, I'd just sit tight. I don't think you want to enter in either direction out of this. And of course, it turns out to be a failure, and this turns out to be a double test of this level. And so I like going long here just to ride it back, see if we come back into the range. But this thing takes off. And that is the first close outside this main trend line. And so you would expect a retest of the high. And we may go all the way up to the highs again. We came real close. We didn't quite get there, but we did come close. And then, of course, you get a close outside here. First entry long, pull back. Second entry long. And notice all that congestion, a couple of dojis in there. You don't want to be going long there. Didn't quite get to the highs. So we're probably going to get at least that much of a overshoot there. So when it tries to go higher and fails and gives you that failed second entry long, and look how bearish that bar is. I like going short right there. Again, you don't know that the bottom's just going to fall out, but you should get a scalp out of that. And it may come back and test these lows here, and it may come back and test this low. Of course, it just kept going and, you know, moved 40 points lower. Okay, I had a little interruption there, but we were talking about, I think we were down to this last trade. You had your reversal here, and it took off. So you had a great opportunity to enter this one. There's a little bit of sideways action. It's a little failed break higher, as well as a second entry long that fails when you're looking for a reversal. So it gives you another pull back here. This could be a spike in channel, but it really looks like, to me, it's almost a two-tiered channel. Notice we do get a little close outside this line and a new low, and then we turn down off that line again slightly, but it just keeps going. So this is probably a little two-tiered short-term channel, and I'm sure there's a bigger pattern here too. I didn't even look for it or pay any attention because it was after this got you into the 2 o'clock hour, so I didn't look at it any further. But there's probably a larger channel pattern there as well. Pretty sure you could probably find one there. But anyway, that's what I saw today. I'm not going to drag this out any longer. We talked about all the trades here. Pretty good trading day. It seemed like it was just kind of going to be a sideways day until this happened. And really the big sell-off didn't come until after 2 o'clock today. So we've seen that a few times lately. So we may continue to see that. I'm not totally against trading after 2 o'clock if you want to, if it's a good, strong trend or something like today where you get a great opportunity. Just be careful much getting close to 3 o'clock because, you don't want to get stuck in there or something crazy. If you're managing a runner or whatever, you can manage it all the way to close. That's not a big deal. But if you're entering new trades and stuff like that, I just don't think it's a good idea much after 2 o'clock because you might get stuck in a trade. Something crazy might happen late in the afternoon and you just don't have much time to recover or to make up for it like you would if it happened early in the morning or mid-morning or whatever, or even midday. So just keep that in mind. But I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow. This is Matt with priceactiontrading system.com, and we'll see you next time.